Hello everybody, Joe here with Ankilo Inc. and I finished the rulebook. This is actually the second time I'm trying to record this. The first time it kind of just took too long and I just kind of wanted to see if I can go through it a little bit faster. So I'm just going to start to get into it right away. This is the front cover. I think it's okay. I probably could have done a little bit better, but it's not a big deal. This is the back cover, pretty much the same thing. So this is the table of contents. There's 28 pages in total, but the first page is kind of just an introduction. Actually, this first page is kind of just an introduction, kind of just going over what Phytora is. You know, it's a two-player game. It's going to take about 30 minutes to an hour. You get 7 points to win, stuff like that, some simpler things. And then a little thank you down here. There's 2 places where I just say thank you for trying out and playing my game. I really do mean it. I mean, the entire reason why I made Phytora was for other people to enjoy and play it, you know, just so it's not just me and Devin. So anyone and everyone who plays and enjoys the game, I really do appreciate it. It means the world to me. So anyways, we start off with explaining the cards, with plant cards going first. This kind of just explains that they can cost from 1 to 4, that there's 7 types, fruit, veggie, root, flower, shroom, weed, and berry. Then we go over the archetypes, mostly saying that the archetypes kind of help and support plants that belong to that archetype, or that if you're in an archetype, you might have a specific ability, like the blooms. The blooms only work while they're in the back line. It also goes over that some archetypes include multiple plant type. Then I go over explaining the floral cards. This first page is kind of just going over the general aspects of floral cards, how they're instant effects, that they can cost up to 5, or that some don't have a cost and have a star, so that means they have a cost range, usually from 1 to 4. And then the second page goes over the other types, traps and equips. It goes over that traps are played during your opponent's turn, and that you can only play 1 during your opponent's turn, and that equip it to a plant, obviously, that's on the field and it gets a buff, and that when the equipped plant dies or gets sent back to your hand, that equip card is removed. It also goes over the few ways to remove an equip card, either through evolution, an ability, or silver boost. Then we move on to the next section, which is all about like evolution, silver boosting, and like the card stacking. So we start off with the evolution. Evolution as a mechanic is kind of like easy to understand. Once you do grasp it, it's just kind of hard to explain. Like, it's really easy if you have like a visual, or if you really know how to explain it, you know? You go from a 1 cost to a 2 cost to a 3 cost to a 4 cost, right? It's just kind of just a step-by-step thing, but you know, it can be kind of hard to explain it in a really effective way. Then silver boosting, which is very similar to evolution, only you have a specific plant that goes into a specific silver form. It kind of just says that you know, some of the extra rules, any equip cards are removed, all silver boosts have doubled the stats of the base form and have a win plate ability. On the second page, or the second page of silver boost explanation, it tells you that for every star it has, that's how many actions it takes, that you can have up to 3 silver boosts in the side deck. You can still have 2 copies if you want, but you know, that's not probably a good idea. And then card stacking. Card stacking is a little weird. So with evolution, with silver boosting, you know, you're stacking up cards, and so those stacked cards aren't in play. Like, they're technically dead. They're technically been removed from the board, but they're not sent to the compost pile, which is, you know, your graveyard, your discard pile, until the topmost card is removed. So if I've got a apple core, and then I evolve that into a Tropirantula, and then I evolve that Tropirantula into a melon brute, the Tropirantula and apple core don't get sent to the compost, 1 until the melon brute is returned to my hand or is killed itself. So yeah, that kind of just goes over what card stacking and what happens to those cards underneath. Then we have deck building, which is kind of just pretty simple. You can have 2 copies of any card unless told otherwise, which in those cases it's always you can only have 1 copy. You have 45 cards in your deck unless you're playing an alternate game, the 10 or 12 point setup, then you actually get 50 cards. Yeah, it kind of just goes over that almost all cards go to the main deck, and that, you know, you kind of want to try to get like some like focus on an archetype or focus on a few specific plant types so that you can use evolution whenever you want or whenever possible. So yeah, just some general explanation, more so fluff, because you know you don't really have to explain a whole lot for a deck. The side deck is right next to your main deck, and it can have up to 5 cards, 3 of which can be Silver Boost, but you don't have to have Silver Boost. You can have 2 or 1 or none. Pretty recently, I made some free cards, kind of just utility cards that don't really have, you just never have them when you need them the most. So these utility cards I made free, and actually you put them in the side deck now. The caveat with this is now you can only have, they belong in the side deck. So if you have 3 Silver Boosts, you're only allowed 2 utility cards. Of course, you can have no Silver Boost or less Silver Boost and more utility and all that stuff. But the side deck is kind of its own separate thing. You can play those cards whenever you want, as long as you can pay for them or use the actions, and they can't be fertilized, or they can't be used with the fertilize action. So they're kind of on their own separate thing. And then on the off chance that you have one of those cards on the field, like a Silver Boost, and your opponent plays a card that returns a card back to the owner's hand or deck or whatever, it's sent to the side deck instead of the main deck. So the side deck is kind of its own special thing, just kind of like a support utility option to make the Silver Boosts more viable, because they weren't really viable because, you know, you had to draw the base form and then the Silver Boost to get those Silver Boosts going. Of course, again, the caveat is that you can't have as many now. You're limited, so you got to kind of choose the best ones for your deck. So then we move on to the next section, Orange, which is kind of like the action board, everything about the action board. It starts off by explaining what it is. You know, it's a 3 rows, 4 columns. Every single one of the squares has something unique. You get 3 actions per turn, and then on tabletop at least, you get little tokens, and you get the action boards so that you can keep track. And it also says that skipping an action doesn't, you have no consequences. I don't know if I'll keep it that way. I might add a separate rule, like an alternative rule, to where like if you skip an action, you pay an energy, or, you know, but I don't know. So yeah, that kind of just some base info on the action board. This page just explains what every single one of the actions does. You got a draw action. The fertilize action has replaced the sacrifice. It used to be called sacrifice. It's the exact same thing. I just changed the name to fit it thematically with the plants and, you know, the plant theme. So now it's referred to as the fertilize action. So, you know, you just discard a card and you gain 2 energy. The fertilize action is its own separate action. So any discard, if a card says, you know, gain 2 energy when you discard a card. I don't think that card exists. It's just an example. Gain 2 energy when you discard a card. When you use the fertilize action, that discard effect won't happen. So you would have to discard a card in a separate scenario. Alternatively, if it said when you use the fertilize action, double attack, right? If that was the card text instead. When you use the fertilize action, you would double the card attack. So yeah, and then you got play plant, play floral, evolution. You have 2 opportunities to evolve on the action board. You can only do it once per turn though. So yeah, and then the Silver Boost actions. And then the third page is just clarifying a few things, like the evolution thing, that some silver cards take up 2 actions, and that trap cards don't take up actions, and that there's no action that just lets you play any type of card. You either get to play a plant or a floral or, you know, a silver boost. You know, you don't get one action that does everything. And then the last page is just explaining the fertilize action, then we're moving on to the blue section, which is game setup. This kind of just explains how to set up the game for, you know, the standard 7-point, 2 energy counters, all that stuff. On the tabletop version, that's all prepared. I'll have a separate workshop item that'll just have all of that set up and prepared, so you don't really need to worry about that. On the off chance that's I do make like physical copies of this game, this will obviously be needed to explain how to set up the game. And then these are just kind of some alternative game rules and setups. You know, you got the 10 or 12-point game, which is pretty much the exact same thing. You get a little extra action board on the tabletop version to put your points, but otherwise, you know, it's the same thing. You get 5 extra cards. So yeah, and then there's an alternative way to make a deck. It's just a draft rule system, kind of like from Hearthstone or whatever. You make a big deck of every card. You draw 2, pick the one you want, or remove the other 2, and keep doing that until you got a full deck. Moving on, we got the red battle section, which is the biggest section. So this is kind of just explaining what happens on the first turn. You start with 2 energy, 4 cards in hand. If you don't like the cards you have in your hand, once per game, once per player, however you want to say it, you can take that hand, reshuffle your deck, and try to draw a better hand. You have to send all 4, your entire hand though. It's not pick and choose the ones you like and whatnot. And then it goes over the first turn for each player. You can't fertilize on the first turn. Player 1, you start with 2 energy. You don't draw a card. You get first play. You don't attack, but you get first play. Then your opponent, player 2, gets to draw a card, gain 1 energy, so they'll have 5 cards in hand and 3 energy, and then they have to react to you, right? They can either ignore you or, you know, counter, and then they get to start the attack. And then this is kind of just a review of playing cards. Again, no single action that lets you play any type of card, and, you know, just some kind of basic review. This starts going over the combat steps. This explains the attack order. You go left to right, front line, back line. So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, right? Just how it is. So this plant will always attack first. This plant will always attack last. And, you know, it's really important to keep that in mind because, you know, because certain plants have certain abilities like when killed or whatever. So you want to activate those at the right time. So you got to put them in the right spot so that they get killed at the right time. Then you got kind of just like the explanation of how damage works. Damage, you take the damage, subtract the defense from the damage. So let's say you got 30 attack and the target has 20 defense. So 30 minus 20 is 10. That's how much damage is dealt. And then obviously when a plant reaches 0 health, it is killed. It also goes over the tokens, the damage tokens and health tokens that you get in the tabletop version. And then this is kind of just a combat scenario to kind of just help explain and visualize things. You get a point, Melon Brute gets a point, Coconut attacks, does nothing, Squash Clops kills the Crabgrass, and then Tater Lord kills the Drillloom, and, you know, that's kind of how the battle works. And then this goes over how to win, get all 7 points, or 10 and 12 if you're playing one of those versions. Your opponent can't draw any more cards, then you win. Yeah, pretty much just simple stuff. Those are the only ways. I'm pretty sure, I'm 99% sure those are the only ways to win. For whatever reason, I have a nagging feeling that I'm missing a way to win. So that was the battling section, and then we got this kind of last section. This is a thank you page. I also have a big thanks to Roskills1810 or Devin. Without him, this game would not be possible. Without me showing him, without me playing with him, I mean, it would not have existed. This game would not exist. Simple as that. So yeah, this is just a big thank you to you guys and Devin. And then this page is kind of like the quote-unquote last page. This is kind of just the credits. I Right now, I haven't paid Bud White, who made the Plant Tour font, which is the font that I use, mostly because I'm not doing this for profit at the moment. And then these are kind of just the links and websites of the people who made the icons. Every icon was not made by me. I modified a couple of them, but for the most part, they are exactly the same. So all these icons, you can go find them under these guys' works under gamesicon.net. And then to finish it off, we got the glossary, right? This just explains, energy or resource used to play cards, just simple stuff like that. That's what the glossary is. So that's the rulebook. Took me forever to make it. I hate making rulebooks, but I wanted to put actual effort and love and make it look nice. So yeah, that was the rulebook. I hope you guys enjoy. I'll see you guys next time. Bye!